Good afternoon. No, that was me. Good afternoon and welcome to the regular Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of Wednesday, July the 3rd. My name is Ian Morrison. I'm the Electoral Area Director for Cowichan Lake South Scots Falls. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the attendance both in the room and remotely of Alternate Director Champ and Alternate Director Laukner. I will ask that folks in the room and the gallery please mute or silence any electronic devices you may have. I'm not like our chair of the committee of the whole who will assign fines, but it's kind of funny when you get interrupted. I'd like to recognize that the CVRD is on unceded territories of the Cowichan, Malahat, Subasat, Halal, Penellicut, Staminas, Layaxan, Pakwichan, DT Dot, and Pachi Dot nations, whose people have walked here gently for thousands of years. Ms. Boyd,
Thank you,
what's
Chair.
up first?
One, approval of the agenda. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. Ms. Boyd.
Thank you. 2M1, that the minutes of the Special Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of June 19th, 2024 to be adopted.
Mover and seconder. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. Next item.
M2, Electoral Area Services Committee meeting, that the minutes of Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of June 19th, 2024 be adopted.
Moved, seconded. Any discussion, errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. Next item.
Thank you. 3, we have business arising from the minutes. BA1, verbal report from the Community Planning Division regarding comprehensive zoning bylaw engagement.
Well, I see Ms. Charelf go to the microphone, and I think Mr. Tippett's around somewhere, maybe not, but I'll go to Ms. Charelf live in the boardroom. Ms. Charelf.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Mr. Tippett is also available online, but it's actually a very short report, but I did want to advise that the Community Planning Division is in the process of developing a request for proposals to secure a consultant to assist with the engagement on the development of the comprehensive zoning bylaw and the regulations. So if that, I think it is anticipated that will result in some potential recommended changes to the consultation that we proposed for the CZB project, and would come back to this committee probably in early fall to recommend any changes that might be needed to the consultation process. We are still targeting completion of the project by the end of, I saw some concerned faces. We are still targeting completion of the project by end of 2025. So no change there, but we, I think, have an opportunity to examine how we're doing engagement to ensure we're doing that effectively. And that's going to yield the best results for the electoral areas.
So before I go to Mr. Tippett, so the overall timeline is the same. There might be some internal adjustments on various items within that.
Yes, so
Okay.
there may be changes to phasing, forms of engagement, but really we're looking at the same completion date.
Thank you. Mr. Tippett, do you have anything you'd like to add remotely?
Mr. Chair, not really. I think Ann did a great job explaining where we're at. Lauren, who is off this week, drafted an initial document that Ann and I are taking a look at right now. And I think the way that Ann described it is perfect. It's an opportunity to sort of improve our engagement plan, and we'll be bringing it back to committee for further review once we have more detail.
Thank you for that. Go to Director Wilson for questions.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Anne. As far as the consultants are concerned, and I agree, in this particular case, we do need to bring some people in to help here. And this question may be a little bit off tack. But with consultants, do we always use the same ones? And is there any way of grading their performance, their service delivery, etc.?
Ms. Trill, before you go too deep, yeah, it's a little often that we have policies, purchasing policies and tender policies that they must follow. If you would like, perhaps at a future meeting, a report as to how that is, but I don't know that, given they're just in the process, can you do a Coles Notes version as to respond to Director Wilson?
Mr. Chair, if I'm not looking for an in-depth thing here, nor am I looking for a report from you. Basically, in any industry, we grade performance. Is the same thing happening here? Just straight, yeah, maybe.
So through any procurement process, we have, standards in place around how we entertain or how we do procurement. And when we go out to RFP, we have a fairly strict set of guidelines around the criteria that have to be in place, and there's a fair process for evaluating proposals, et cetera. We do have a number of qualified consultants who have already been pre-qualified as qualified engagement consultants for the CBRD, so that may be the roster that we look at. And as the chair noted, I think procurement staff could come back and give you more fulsome report on that particular area of expertise, which isn't mine.
Director Martman.
Thank you, Chair, and through to Ann. I'm interested in, there's obviously a lot of interest in the agricultural community, and how can they best provide information as you go through this process, or you wait for the consultant to be hired and then they start the engage, like they'll start laying out how the best to have the the engagement piece.
Ms. Churl.
Yeah, I think we'll, through you, Mr. Chair, I think we'll look to the consultant to provide some guidance as to the best way to do that, and effective forms and multiple ways of, that people will have to provide input. So that'll be, effective and timely, and will yield the best results for everyone. Yeah.
Any further questions? I look online. See no hands. Thank you, Ms. Churl. Thank you, Mr. Tippett. Ms. Boyd.
Thank you, Chair. We move to 4, public input period. Public input period is to offer the public an opportunity to comment on agenda items before the committee considers the item. The public input period procedure policy allows for an allotment of 15 minutes where the speaker is welcome to comment on any items on the agenda up to a maximum of 3 minutes. This excludes items that are or have been subject to a public hearing. Input from the community is valued and appreciated. We request that input is presented in a friendly and respectful manner. Your cooperation in maintaining a safe, respectful, and orderly environment is greatly appreciated.
I'd like to welcome anyone that would like to provide input to committee to please come forward to the microphone. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and directors and those that may be at home. I'm not sure if they are. Anyways, I would just like to speak about the to the minutes of the ag community and how they're engaging, how you're engaging with the agricultural committee.
Can I ask you to hold just there for a moment, because I think we've had this scenario before, and I think we've agreed that the minutes of the previous meetings don't constitute, oh, wait a minute, it's not minutes, it's under unfinished business, correct? Hang on, just hang on. Stop the clock.
Reset the clock.
We're in a gray area, go for it, Ms. Kaufman.
Thank you. I think it's really important in a time when we're seeing diminishing roles or ways in which the community can engage, that it is vitally important that our farmers and two of your coworkers, your fellow directors here, are active farmers, that their voices be heard and respected and fully incorporated into the proceedings and not after the fact with the consultant. Hopefully the consultant will work with an ag committee if you should, and you must, in my opinion, develop an ag community or commission to fully support our local farmers. They need all the support they can get, and we also need them. You know, the recent events and years have showed us that when our supply chain gets cut off, we get cut off. So we need to support them wherever we can. And I would like to speak to another item, R1, on the agenda. And it's about closing a observation well on, and I think the same thing, that drought is and water, shortage of water is very much a concern for the people of our valley, of our regional district, and throughout the province. You know, you listen to what's happening in Tofino right now. It's a huge issue. So maintaining wells to monitor the health of an aquifer is really important. So that I hope you would support maintaining that observation well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Would anyone else like to provide input to committee today on the agenda items that have been published? Going once, going twice, going three times. Ms. Boyd, next item.
Thank you, Chair. 5 delegations, we don't have any, so we'll move to correspondence. C1, grant and aid request, that it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid electoral area, Mill Bay, Malahat, in the amount of $500 be provided to the Cobble Hill Event Society to support Music in the Park 2024.
Moved by Director Wilson, seconded by Director Segal. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, the motion carries. Next item.
C2, that it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid electoral area C, Cobble Hill, in the amount of $1,500 be provided to the Cobble Hill Event Society in support of Music in the Park 2024.
Moved by Director Segal, seconded by Director Wilson. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Tomorrow is the July the 4th. It is also the first Music in the Park performance at the Cobble Hill Park. So it's going to be a good one. It always is. There's lots of kids, dogs running around, all the rest of it. And the featured group is the Carlines, and I've looked them up and I can't find anything about them, but come along. It's going to be good, I'm sure. Thank you.
Call a question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. C3, Ms. Boyd.
Thank you. That it be recommended to the board that a grant and aid electoral area G, Solitaire Gulf Islands, in the amount of $5,000 be provided to the Ruxton Island Property Owners Association to support water cisterns for Ruxton Island.
Moved by Director McClinton, seconded by Director Abbott. Director McClinton, do you have something to say about this?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the folks on Ruxton Island who've really taken their fire safety into their own hands and are in the process of a long process of working towards protecting their island. They're a very vulnerable situation. I know that $5,000 is just a small part of the amount of money they're going to need to raise to fully protect their island. But hopefully it's an acknowledgement for folks on the island that maybe don't get to use all of the services like some of us on the Big Island get to. So just want to give kudos to them, and specifically Larry Ross, who I've had many conversations with. He's a good champion for Ruxton Island. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. Ms. Boyd.
Thank you, Chair. We move to number 7, information, IN1, Electoral Area B, Shawnigan Lake Advisory Planning Commission minutes, June 18th, 2024. And Electoral Area E, Cowichan Station, Satlam, Glenora Advisory Planning Commission June 11th, 2024. There's site visit minutes, site visits number 2, as well as meeting minutes for information.
Any questions, discussion on those items? Seeing none, Ms. Boyd, next item.
Thank you. We also have Thetis Island Port Commission minutes of May 13th, 2024 for information.
Any questions, discussion on that item? Seeing none, Ms. Boyd, number 8, reports.
Thank you. Moving right along, report from the Development Services Division regarding application 02A15SA S510 Parkland Dedication, Lodgepole Road, PID 007 059 663 007 059 680 and 007 059 736 and 007 059 752.
Easy for you to say, Ms. DeBenna.
Thank you, Chair. So this is parkland dedication under Section 510 of the Local Government Act for a 12-lot. This always happens when I come up here. I guess I could have done that.
That's okay. I don't know why the tool are shining.
Okay. Shall I continue? Okay. Where was I? Okay, so, yeah, it's a 12-lot subdivision proposed. CBDRD Parks and Trails Division has recommended acceptance of the proposed 5% parkland in the location identified in the subdivision plan, which is highlighted in orange on the next slide. It's not the most clear. This application was also considered by the Area A Community Parks Advisory Commission in 2015, who supported accepting parkland at this location to contribute to a future connecting trail, which if you go to the next slide, I've done a fancy new map for you. It's kind of clear. Okay, so this location aligns with the Mill Bay Malahat Community Parks and Trails Master Plan and would provide partial access for completing a trail corridor to connect to the Delume Trail, as shown on the map along the south there, kind of a partial square, L shape. The location of the parkland must be accepted by the board, therefore it's presented to you today, and staff are recommending acceptance of the proposed 5% parkland dedication as shown on the plan. I believe the next slide is just the recommendation. That's it for me, but I don't know if Brian or somebody wants to talk about the observation well, or Jeff, or if you're going to ask about that.
Well, why don't we first go to questions for you from committee members, and then we'll see if we need to call somebody else up. Director Deck.
Thank you, Chair. My question was about the observation well, so maybe I can wait for Mr. Moore?
Why don't you
Or
hold?
I can start the
Give
response.
us your response, and we'll go to the questions.
My understanding from speaking with Parks Division is that they don't accept parkland that has encumbrances on it, so that would need to be removed. But I believe that's from the parks perspective. Thank you, Brian. And perhaps, Jeff, do you mind going further on this one? I know you've responded by email. Okay, thanks.
Sure, if that's the will of the chair. To the committee, yeah, there was a question about do we need this observation well, basically, should we be getting rid of it? And my understanding is that these wells that are identified as observation wells in the map that was provided aren't part of the provincial groundwater observation well network, which is the long-term monitoring ones. These are more characterized as ones that were drilled on this property to sort of see how much water is available specifically at that location. And we do have, there is an existing groundwater observation well that is part of the provincial network that goes into Aquifer 206, and that is located about half a kilometer away on Delume Road. So under the hydrometric monitoring strategy, that well is considered to be adequate to understand the conditions in Aquifer 206, so it's not a priority for there to be another observation well in the same aquifer.
Director Deck, follow-up.
Thank you, Chair. It was referenced that the Watershed Sustainability Act had something to do with it being decommissioned, so I couldn't find when I read the act what triggered that decommissioning from the, maybe it's just I didn't read.
Yeah,
closely
yeah, through
enough.
the chair. It's just, you can't just leave wells sitting around unused for long periods of time because there's a risk to being able to introduce contamination to an aquifer. So it's a requirement under the Water Sustainability Act that when a well is not being used, that it be properly decommissioned. And especially when it's land that's being turned over to us, as we don't want that associated with it.
Right. Thanks very much.
Any additional questions for staff? Director Abbott?
Thank you, Chair. More clarification from planners. You referenced in the site plan that shows the partial L, partial square, and we've got the orange park allocation. Was there any talk of connectivity? And I realize this goes back to a park dedication from 2015, but it would seem like there'd be merit in linking up green space to link in with that L.
Through the chair to Director Abbott. Yeah, so that's essentially what this parkland dedication would do, is provide a partial connection. There's still an area between the lodgepole property and Delume that is privately owned, that I think potentially Brian he's coming. I'm done.
Mr. Farquhar?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee. Yes, as part of the Community Park Trails Master Plan for Mill Bay Malahat, this is a established route that is something that we're looking to achieve bit by bit. So the gap between the two is actually lands held by Brentwood College. So with this subdivision proceeding, with support of the committee and the board and seeing this park dedication provided, the next step would be then to approach Brentwood College to see how we could get that last little piece to then work with the community to actually build the trail.
Thank you, Mr. Farquhar.
Director Mertman?
Thank you, and through the staff, was there any questions about the well with the APC or the Parks Commission about other uses of it?
Through the chair to Director Martman, to be honest, I am unaware of discussions. This is a 2015 subdivision, and I was assigned it about 2 years ago. I don't believe I saw any discussion to that effect, but Brian's coming back.
Why don't you just hang out up there, Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Director Martman, no, there was no discussions with the Parks Advisory Commission in terms of the well. It was understood that the well itself was something that the developer had put in when they were looking for water, and I believe it probably had more to do with looking for their subdivision having adequacy for connectivity to the Mill Bay water system, which is held by an improvement district. It's not the CBRD. And there would be no purpose or use for the community in terms of the trail network for having a supply of water in a well in the midst of a trail corridor connecting between Delume and Mill Springs.
That concludes your questions. Thank you, Mr. Farquhar. I'm tempted, but I won't. Director Segal.
I'll move the recommendation.
And we have seconders around the room. Any discussion? Oh, you know what? We didn't ask the applicant if there was any additional comments. Mr. Hopkins in the room? Okay, we got a motion on the floor. Director Segal, would you like to speak to the resolution?
Yes, thank you. I'm very excited to see this park dedication. This trail access point is so important to all the residents in the Mill Springs area, so I'm really happy to see movement towards our active transportation network. I did just quickly look at the provincial website map. I mean, this observation well is not even listed as an inactive well, so I don't think it was ever really on the provincial radar. And I know that the Mill Bay Water District has a number of observation wells that they use to monitor aquifer variabilities. So it's not just related to one well, but they have a variety.
I see Mr. Hopkins there. We do actually have a resolution on the floor, and I'm feeling fairly confident that the resolution is going to proceed, and I don't want to deviate from procedure and introduce the applicant once the resolution is on the floor. So can you, maybe hang on there and we'll see how the vote goes. Okay, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. The motion carries. That will go through to the meeting on July the 10th, the regular board meeting on July the 10th. Thank you, Mr. Hopkins, for attending and being so patient. Ms. Boyd, next item.
Thank you. R2, report from the Development Services Division regarding application SA 21B02 2961 Shawnigan Lake Road, PID 000004341.
Ms. DeBenna again. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. So this is another subdivision application, and this one is for frontage exemption for a two-lot subdivision in Electoral Area B. Both proposed lots require an exemption from the 10% frontage requirement due to the existing shape of the property. Do you want to just pop over to the next slide? Thank you. Here. Yeah, thank you. So you can see it's interesting shape. And staff have noted in the staff report that while section 14.9 in the Area B zoning bylaw measures frontage along the width of the property rather than the panhandle, the Local Government Act requirement in section 512 does not contemplate nor make allowances for panhandle access, so just wanted to mention that. And staff are recommending exemption of the 10% requirement be granted.
Thank you. Questions for Ms. DeBenna? And I don't see anyone online. I would then ask if the applicant is interested in providing any additional comment if they're online. I don't see if the applicant's here. So we'll go to the alternate director for the area. What's your pleasure?
Thank you. I would like to move the recommendation, please.
Do we have a seconder? We have a seconder. So the motion has been duly moved and seconded. Any discussion, questions, thoughts? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, the motion carries. R3.
Thank you, Chair. A report from the Development Services Division regarding application SA 23B06 2686 Courtney Way, PID 025423053.
Welcome, Ms. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jamie really stole my thunder there. If you go to the next slide, this is also for a frontage exemption for a two-lot subdivision in Electoral Area B. It's going to sound familiar. The proposed two-lot subdivision is going to split the existing 1 hectare lot into two lots, one 0.2 hectares and one 0.8 hectares. Proposed lot 1, shown outlined in black here, has a road frontage of 6.1. Remainder lot C will have a road frontage of 1.2%. So obviously neither of the lots will meet the 10% frontage exemption, and hence me being here. And this subdivision will site each of the existing dwellings on separate lots. And I believe the next slide is the recommendation. So staff are recommending exemption, and I believe the applicant is here as well.
Excellent. Any questions for staff? I might have one. Oh, I guess it's me then. Just doing some quick math. We have in the past placed covenants on properties to restrict further development and subdivision. Looking at what we have here, I know that it would require Herculean efforts to squeeze more lots out of this, but is there any indication that this is going to be a one and done, or are we any indication that there may be additional applications come forward?
Through the chair to the chair. At this point, we don't have any applications for this lot. We don't have any provisions in the zoning bylaw that I can think of off the top of my head that would be a zoning bylaw regulation in terms of registering that covenant. The applicant is here if you would like to see what they maybe have planned for the future. But yeah, to my knowledge, we don't have any indication that there is proposed subdivisions on any of the parcels going forward.
Thank you. Any questions, any further questions for staff? Looking on screen, seeing none. Does the applicant have anything that they would like to add to the report? Any additional comments?
Yes, I think it's
Oh, microphone.
At its best use right now, just going to be 2 lots. Yes, I have 2.5 acres on paper, but there's no way you could have 4 lots. I don't have the frontage. You'd have to have 4 lots with perkable soil. I have 3/4 of an acre of all rock. So this is its maximum is 2 lots. There won't be any other application for doing anything.
Thank you.
And our neighboring property is the same thing. They have acreage with a panhandle, the same as mine, so I'm not doing anything different.
Very good, thank you. Director for the area is alternate Director Champ. What's your pleasure?
Thank you. I'd like to move the recommendation.
Do we have a seconder? We have a seconder. Any discussion? It's been duly moved and seconded. Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed, the motion carries. That too will go to Wednesday, the 10th of July. Ms. Boyd, what do we have next?
Thank you, Chair. No unfinished business, no new business. Moving to question period.
I think we can just go straight to question period without reading the long, boring. Please, anyone that would like to pose a question to the chair. Oh, before we do that, just very quickly, there was a question in regards at the last meeting about the estimates for the quotes for the, now I know it's already been to the board, but it's been, the staff have followed all due process in estimating what the number was, and that was presented to committee and to the board. So I just wanted to follow up on that. I think it was a Mr. Evans question. So please come forward and pose your question to the chair.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to butt in front of Rebecca here, but we have no idea what you were just referring to.
Mr. Evans had posed a question that was read out. Did you read it out? About the value determined by the professional in regards to the Elkington Forest request for cash in lieu of providing that. And so he'd said, why wasn't there 3 quotes? And what I've heard from staff is that they received a bona fide number from a qualified professional, and that was sufficient.
Good, thank you for that clarity.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and directors, for the opportunity to ask questions at the end of the session here. My question is with respect to item BA1. And my question is that basically, I mean, the farming community has asked very clearly that we've requested that a steering committee be formed for the development of the agricultural zoning bylaw that is currently underway, and that the decision was made by the committee as well as by the board to move forward into the public consultation process. And I'm wondering when the farming community is going to hear back from CVRD on that request.
Okay, thank you for the question. So I indicated when Ms. Kaufman got up and had posed a question or provided input, generally business arising from the minutes and minutes don't constitute a agenda item, even though they appear on here. So the report that was presented to us was about the securing consultants and that process. So we are, as indicated by our general manager, we don't know what the consultants are going to recommend around this process, though I'm sure staff have heard loud and clear what the will of the committee is. So it would be impossible for me to answer when in that process that we would expect the farming community to be consulted. I just know that we've heard that they would like to be earlier than later. So that's the extent of what we can answer on that.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up question?
Go ahead.
So is the decision, it sounds like the decision to procure consultant services in support of this zoning bylaw update is something new, assuming. How does that decision to secure those consultant services affect the plan that CVRD had to accelerate the schedule for the agricultural zoning bylaw? In the last few meetings, my understanding was that there was a decision to actually accelerate the development of that portion of the document because of the fact that it was going to require additional consultation and engagement with the farming community. And I know that there was pressure to proceed with approving that document to go out for public consultation, even though we were requesting that it not go forward at this point, in order to, in the spirit that we needed to accelerate that document. And so I'm wondering whether this decision to secure these consulting services is actually going to change that plan that CVRD had to accelerate the agricultural zoning bylaw specifically.
So I think that what we have heard from staff today is that they are engaging in the process to secure the consultants. And in that process, they are uncertain as to whether there would be any internal adjustments to the timelines of the various components of that. So clearly, my understanding from what staff have provided us today is that the overall timeline is expected to be the same. There could be adjustments to different components, one of which could be the ag part, but we don't know because we haven't engaged the consultants yet.
Okay, may I ask one
Sure, go ahead.
follow-up question? And that is with respect to the consultant services that are going to be procured. Is that going to be for drafting the zoning bylaws themselves? Or is that going to be purely focused on the public engagement portion of that work?
So I would have to get a further clarification from staff, but when they report to us that they are in the midst of drafting and finalizing the RFP documents and the parameters, that I think that it would be almost impossible to guess what those changes would be and what the scope of the service provider will be providing us. So we will know more when the final RFP documents have been drafted and when we get the response from people that are interested in the providing of the services.
Is there a timeline for when that RFP will go out?
I don't have that now, but I will report back by the next meeting.
Wonderful. All right, thank you.
Very good. Is there anyone else would like to pose a question to the chair on the items on today's agenda? Seeing none, Ms. Boyd, what's next?
We will move to motion to close, that the meeting be closed to the public in accordance with the Community Charter, Part 4, Division 3, Section 90, subsections as noted below for each agenda item. That would be CSM, closed session, Electoral Area Service Committee minutes, special closed session, Electoral Area Service Committee minutes of June 19th, 2024, and CSR 1, Law Enforcement, Section 91F.
It's been moved. Do we have a seconder? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? We are closed. We will return at 2:20 for the closed session. We have a different login, I believe, for that.